Welcome back to part 2 of the story. Now, let's uncover what happened next.
Stay with us until the very end, because every clue matters. Before we begin, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest true crime stories.
Doctors interviewed by ABC News said that alcohol poisoning alone was unlikely to cause the violent convulsions he described in an otherwise healthy 18-year-old. That raised another disturbing possibility. Natalee's father, Dave Holloway, believed someone may have slipped something into her drink. He later revealed that one of the lead detectives had warned him about Carlos and Charlie's nightclub. According to the detective, drink spiking had become a serious problem there. Local schools even educated students about the dangers of substances being secretly added to drinks. Dave became convinced that Joran never called for medical help because doctors would have discovered evidence of drugs like GHB in Natalee's system. If true, that discovery could have changed everything. Beth Holloway shared that belief. She refused to believe Natalee would have willingly separated herself from her friends under normal circumstances. Medical specialists explained that a combination of alcohol and drugs, particularly GHB, could trigger seizures similar to the ones Joran described. One expert noted that GHB had once been used as an anesthetic decades earlier, until doctors abandoned it because patients experienced dangerous convulsions. It wasn't proof. But it made Joran's story even more unsettling. Then the investigation took another unexpected turn. In late 2008, Dutch investigative journalist Peter R. de Vries released another undercover operation. This time, the target wasn't Natalee's disappearance. It was Joran's activities in Thailand. Hidden cameras allegedly captured him, arranging to recruit young Thai women for what appeared to be a human trafficking operation. Authorities suspected he was promising modeling and dancing jobs in Europe, while secretly steering the women toward the sex industry. The allegations were never connected to Natalee's disappearance, but they painted an increasingly disturbing picture of Joran's behavior. Soon afterward, Joran appeared on Fox News with yet another unbelievable confession. This time, he claimed he had sold Natalee Holloway into a human trafficking ring for $10,000. He even played what he claimed was a secretly recorded conversation involving his father. According to this version, Natalee willingly boarded a boat after he convinced her they were going for a late-night ride. He claimed she wasn't frightened. She was simply too intoxicated to understand what was happening. When asked what he received in return, he casually replied, "A bag of money," then admitted, it wasn't even the full amount he had supposedly been promised. It sounded horrifying. But just 8 hours later, Joran sent an email to Fox News. Everything he had said was another lie. By November 2008, investigators received 2 new leads. The first came from a witness who claimed to have seen Joran and his father near a pond around 4 a.m. on the morning Natalee disappeared. That account directly contradicted Paulus van der Sloot's earlier statement that he had been asleep at home until 7 a.m. The witness also described seeing a young man, soaking wet from the waist down, wearing only one shoe, running away from the area before climbing into a red Jeep with an older man. It was intriguing, but investigators couldn't prove what the witness had seen. The second lead came from Joran's former girlfriend. She told police that Joran had once made a chilling remark. "You never know. You could be standing on a beach with someone who knows how to dispose of a body. Whether it was a confession, a joke, or simply another manipulation, no one could say." The false confessions continued into 2010. In one interview, Joran claimed Natalee died after falling from a balcony during a night of drinking and drug use at a friend's house. He said he hid her body in a swamp. Investigators checked every detail. Once again, the story fell apart. Authorities dismissed it as completely unbelievable. Then tragedy struck Joran's own family. In February 2010, his father, Paulus van der Sloot, suffered a fatal heart attack while playing tennis in Aruba. He was just 57 years old. Joran returned home for the funeral, but after it was over, he disappeared once again. Running low on money, he made a decision that shocked even veteran investigators. He contacted Beth Holloway herself, claiming that, for the right price, he would finally reveal what happened to her daughter. The nightmare was far from over. Chapter: The investigation begins to collapse. As the months dragged on, frustration reached a breaking point. Many people in Aruba began referring to the Holloway family as Ugly Americans, believing the U.S. media had unfairly portrayed the island and its justice system. The nonstop criticism from American news outlets didn't just damage Aruba's reputation, It strained diplomatic relationships and hurt the island's tourism industry. The case had become much bigger than a missing person investigation. It had turned into an international battle over justice, public opinion, and trust. A new theory emerges. By March 2006, Aruba's deputy police chief introduced a theory that shocked many people. Investigators now believe Natalee may not have been murdered at all. Instead, they suggested she could have died after consuming large amounts of alcohol, possibly mixed with illegal drugs. According to investigators, witnesses claimed Natalee had been drinking heavily that day and may have had illegal substances in her possession. Police also began questioning one important detail. What if Natalee never went to the beach? What if she had actually been taken to Joran van der Sloot's house instead? Regardless of where she ended up, authorities believed she may have suffered a fatal medical emergency while she was with him. Their theory was that Natalee collapsed unexpectedly, and the real crime began afterward, when someone chose to hide her body instead of calling for help. The ocean theory. For years, many believed Natalee's body had been dumped into the Caribbean Sea. But search and rescue expert Dr. Ruben Cruz wasn't convinced. He explained that an unweighted body thrown near shore would almost always wash back onto the beach. His team tested the theory repeatedly. Every single time, the current brought the body back. The only way a body wouldn't return would be if it had been taken several miles offshore. And according to investigators, every boat operating that night had been tracked. Nothing suspicious was found. That led police toward another possibility. Maybe Natalee's body had never entered the ocean at all. Perhaps it had been hidden somewhere on land, carefully concealed by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Running out of answers. By 2006, Aruban authorities had exhausted nearly every lead. The investigation had already cost roughly $3 million, almost 40% of the island's annual police budget. With nowhere else to turn, Aruba asked the Netherlands to take over the investigation. Dutch investigators started from scratch. Fresh searches were launched. Homes were searched again. Evidence was reviewed. But despite years of work, the mystery remained exactly where it had begun, without answers. The man who wouldn't stop talking. While investigators searched for Natalee, Joran van der Sloot seemed to embrace the spotlight. In 2007, he even published a book about the case. Inside, he admitted he had lied during the early stages of the investigation, but still insisted he was completely innocent. Authorities searched the Kalpo family home again. Months later, Joran and the Kalpo brothers were arrested once more. This time, prosecutors accused them of involvement in Natalee's death based on newly discovered evidence. But they never revealed what that evidence actually was. Weeks later, the charges were dropped. Once again, there simply wasn't enough proof. On December 18th, 2007, Aruba officially closed the case. For Natalee's family, it felt like justice had slipped away. The lies continue. Freedom only made Joran more confident. He traveled across the world, spent time in Thailand, and repeatedly inserted himself back into the headlines. Interview after interview, his story kept changing. One day, he claimed he left Natalee sitting alone on the beach. Another day, he insisted he had done nothing wrong. Every explanation sounded different, but one thing never changed. There was still no Natalee. Television interviews. When ABC News confronted him about the changing stories, Joran blamed fear. He claimed he lied because he didn't want anyone to know he had abandoned Natalee on the beach. His parents defended him. They insisted he had been unfairly targeted, that the investigation had destroyed their family. But public suspicion only grew stronger. The beach story. During another television interview, Joran described drinking high-proof rum with Natalee before taking her to the beach. He claimed she wanted to have sex, but he refused because he didn't have a condom. He said Natalee wanted to stay by the ocean while he needed to leave for school the next morning. So, he simply walked away. He admitted he felt guilty about leaving her alone, but insisted she was alive when he left. Once again, there was no evidence supporting his version of events. The hidden camera. In 2008, Dutch crime reporter Peter R. De Vries secretly recorded Joran during a hidden camera operation. What the cameras captured shocked viewers. Joran claimed Natalee suddenly began convulsing while they were together on the beach. He said she lost consciousness and died from alcohol poisoning or a drug overdose. According to his story, a friend helped him load her body onto a boat. They sailed roughly 2 kilometers offshore and dumped her into the sea. Then he calmly added, "They'll never find her." Moments later, He denied murdering her, chasing money instead of justice. Even more disturbing, Joran openly talked about the compensation lawsuit his father planned to file against Aruban authorities. Instead of worrying about Natalee, he talked about collecting a huge financial settlement. When asked whether her body would ever be found, he simply smiled. No. The only thing I want now is my compensation check. A chilling conversation. During the secretly recorded meeting, the undercover investigator pressed him. So, what really happened? Joran insisted he never killed Natalee. He claimed he had simply been lucky. Lucky that her body had never been found. He admitted that if investigators ever recovered her remains, his life would be over. Without a body, there was no case. He hinted that someone with a boat had helped dispose of her, but refused to reveal the person's identity. Whether any of it was true, no one knew. Because once the recording became public, Joran claimed he had invented the entire story, again. Experts pushed back. Medical experts later challenged his explanation. Doctors interviewed by ABC News said alcohol poisoning alone was unlikely to cause the violent convulsions Joran described. Natalee's father had long believed her drink may have been drugged. He remembered detectives warning tourists at Carlos and Charlie's to never leave drinks unattended. Medical specialists pointed toward drugs such as GHB, which, when mixed with alcohol, could cause seizures and sudden collapse. It was another theory, but like so many others, it couldn't be proven. Thailand. While the Natalee Holloway investigation remained frozen, Joran's name surfaced in another disturbing undercover operation. Hidden cameras recorded him in Thailand, attempting to recruit young women for jobs in Europe. Investigators suspected the operation was actually connected to sex trafficking. Around the same time, Joran made yet another unbelievable confession. This time, he claimed he had sold Natalee into a human trafficking network for $10,000. Just hours after the interview aired, he admitted it was another lie. New leads. In early 2010, Joran's father died unexpectedly. Only weeks later, Joran contacted Natalee's mother. He claimed he was finally ready to tell the truth. But there was a price: $250,000. With Beth Holloway's approval, her attorney secretly involved the FBI. A meeting was arranged. The first payment was made. Joran accepted the money and told yet another story. He claimed Natalee died after he pushed her and she struck her head on a rock. He said his father helped hide the body beneath the foundation of a house under construction. Investigators checked every detail. It was false. The house didn't even exist when Natalee disappeared. Another lie, another cruel deception, another victim. Just weeks later, history repeated itself. On May 30th, 2010, exactly 5 years after Natalee vanished, 21-year-old Stephanie Flores disappeared in Peru. Days later, she was found brutally murdered inside a hotel room. The room had been rented by one man, Joran van der Sloot. This time, there was no mystery about who investigators were looking for. After fleeing the country, he was captured in Chile and returned to Peru. He eventually admitted killing Stephanie after she discovered his connection to the Natalee Holloway case. Although he later claimed the confession had been forced, the evidence was overwhelming. In January 2012, he was sentenced to 28 years in prison. The final truth. Years later, in 2023, after nearly 2 decades of lies, Joran finally confessed to killing Natalee Holloway as part of a plea agreement in a U.S. federal court. He admitted that Natalee rejected his sexual advances on the beach. Enraged, he attacked her. When she lost consciousness, he struck her in the head with a concrete block. Then, he dragged her body into the ocean and left her there. After 18 years of deception, the family finally had the answer they had searched for, not the ending they wanted, but at last, the truth. The confession. The truth after 18 years. What happened next was more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. Joran admitted that even after Natalee repeatedly told him no, he refused to stop. When she fought back and kneed him in the groin, something inside him snapped. Consumed by rage, he stood up and delivered a brutal kick directly to her face. The force of the blow knocked Natalee unconscious. Whether she was already dead or barely alive, he didn't know, and he didn't care enough to find out. Instead, his eyes landed on something lying nearby, a large concrete cinder block resting on the beach. He picked it up. Then, he brought it crashing down onto Natalee's head. again and again. He later admitted that the impact was so violent, her face was almost unrecognizable. It was the moment Natalee Holloway's life came to a tragic end, erasing the evidence. Her reality finally set in. Joran realized exactly what he had done. But instead of calling for help, instead of reporting the crime, he made another decision. He dragged Natalee's lifeless body across the sand, walked knee-deep into the Caribbean Sea, and pushed her into the dark water. Then, he simply turned around, walked home, and tried to carry on as though nothing had happened. A mother's pain. During the federal investigation, Beth Holloway was allowed to witness part of Joran's recorded confession. What disturbed her almost as much as the murder itself was what he did afterward. According to Beth, Joran admitted that after killing Natalee, he went home, watched pornography, checked soccer scores, and continued with his night as if nothing had happened. For Beth, those details revealed a complete absence of remorse. The court's decision. The federal judge accepted Joran's plea agreement. The judge described him as a man who had violently attacked 2 young women after they rejected his sexual advances. Still, because Natalee's murder happened in Aruba, his confession could not be used to prosecute him for murder in an American courtroom. An apology that meant nothing. Standing before the court, Joran apologized to both the Holloway family and his own. He claimed he had found God. He said he had given his life to Jesus Christ. He insisted he was no longer the same person he had been 18 years earlier. But Beth Holloway wasn't moved. Not for a second. During her emotional victim impact statement, she looked directly at the man who had stolen her daughter and called him exactly what she believed he was. You are evil personified. She spoke about 18 years of lies, false confessions, media interviews, and cruel games that kept reopening the deepest wound imaginable. She said the grief of losing Natalee wasn't something that faded with time. It lived deep within her soul. Justice. At last. Natalee's body has never been recovered. And because of legal limitations, Joran van der Sloot has never been formally charged with her murder. Yet for Beth, the confession changed everything. Speaking to reporters outside the courthouse, she said,
"Well, today I can tell you with certainty that after 18 years, Natalee's case is solved. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. It's over. Joran van der Sloot is no longer the suspect in my daughter's murder. He is the killer. In the course of his felony prosecution, here for extortion and wire fraud indictment, he gave a proffer in which he finally confessed that he killed Natalee. He described when and how he killed her. He said that after killing her on the beach in Aruba, he put her into the water, and that was the last that he ever saw her. It's been 18 years since Natalee disappeared, and Natalee would be 36 years old today. I still miss her every day. It's been a very long and painful journey, but we finally got the answers we've been searching for all these years. We finally, today, we got justice for Natalee. So you will also have details of the plea agreement which was reached. His sentence of the extortion and the wire fraud will run concurrently with his sentence in Peru for killing Stephanie Flores. And that's fine with me. Thanks to a lot of very smart and dedicated people here, I got the answer I've been searching for the past 18 years. Joran van der Sloot's confession means we have finally reached the end of our never-ending nightmare. And for me, reaching the end of the nightmare, being over is better than closure. It feels victorious. I feel like you finally begin to transition from the victim to the victor, and it begins to make the pain and suffering feel somewhat less intense because you are here. You are at this point, the pinnacle of the journey, and you've gotten justice and you've gotten the answers you've been so desperately seeking. It is shocking and it is horrific to hear a killer that describing the brutal things that he did to my daughter, Matt's sister. It's shocking and it is very disturbing, but it's things that parents have to know the truth. They have to hear the answers as to what happened in order to put. Natalee was very bright, very smart, dedicated young lady. She was on her way to college. she was headed to medical school after that, and I have no doubt she would have made it all the way. So we love her, we miss her very much, and we wake up every morning with thoughts of Natalee, but now we wake up knowing that we have reached justice for Natalee.
Federal prosecutors confirmed that Joran gave a full proffer describing exactly how he murdered Natalee, how he disposed of her body, and that his confession was supported by a comprehensive polygraph examination conducted during the investigation. Why he will never face murder charges. Even after confessing, Joran will almost certainly never stand trial for Natalee's murder. The crime occurred in Aruba, outside the jurisdiction of U.S. courts, and under Aruban law, the statute of limitations for that offense expired years ago. Legally, the case has reached its end, even if morally, it never truly will. Life behind bars. In 2021, Joran received an additional prison sentence in Peru after being convicted of trafficking illegal drugs inside prison. Combined with his existing convictions, Peruvian law limits his total prison term to 35 years unless a life sentence is imposed. His projected release date is currently 2045, and if he were ever released early, he would immediately be transferred to the United States to finish serving his federal sentence for extortion and wire fraud. One more twist. In late 2025, reports emerged that Joran had allegedly attempted suicide inside his prison cell. Guards reportedly found him hanging from a strip of blanket during morning rounds. Whether it was a genuine suicide attempt or another desperate attempt to manipulate attention remains unknown. The incident happened shortly after he reached out to Natalee's family with another apology, once again placing his name back in the headlines. The legacy of Natalee Holloway. Natalee Holloway was just 18 years old. She had earned a scholarship. She dreamed of becoming a pediatrician. She had her entire future waiting for her. What began as a graduation trip to paradise became one of the most heartbreaking criminal cases in modern American history. For nearly 20 years, her family searched for answers. Investigators searched beaches, the ocean, homes, and countless leads that led nowhere. The world watched every twist, every rumor, every lie. Natalee's family never got to bring her home. They never received the justice they deserved in a courtroom, but they finally received something almost as important: the truth. And sometimes, after years of darkness, the truth is the only thing left that can set a family free. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to share, and subscribe for more in-depth true crime stories. We'll see you in the next investigation.